So today, guys, I'm going to show you 3 ways that I organized my spice cabinet. So let's begin. Here is the first way, and this is what you'll need. You'll need some scissors, a Sharpie, a label maker, some spices, and some spice containers. If you guys watched my previous hauls, you will know I picked up these copper spice containers at the Dollar Tree. First step is to sort out all of your spices and check the dates to make sure that they are still good. And once you get all the spices that you need in the number of containers that you need, you're just going to go ahead and print some labels on your label maker for the various spices. So next I'm going to take the label and place it on the jar. But instead of placing it right here, as this would be the obvious place for it to go, because if I put it there, you would not be able to locate or see the names of the spices if they're standing upright. So labeling them on the fronts on this little part, I would have to go through each one and kind of look to see what I wanted. But what I'm going to do instead is put the label right here on this edge so that when I'm looking down into the spice bin, I can see the labels right on top. So as you can see, Old Bay is right there on the top. It's not covering up any of the holes. It'll just be easy for me to see right on top. Now the next thing I wanted to do with the spice jar was to add an expiration label to the back of the jar. And in this case, this Old Bay expires December 2018. And I just write the date 12/2018 on the back for my expiration date. And what I'll do when this finally expires, or if I use it up and need to refill it, I'll just take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and that would remove the Sharpie ink and I can just replace it with the new date. And now I am ready to just go ahead and empty in my spice. And you would clean out your jars, obviously, before you place the spices in. Now I just need to do this 9 more times. So we went from this, all of these random spices, to this. And I'm loving how this turned out. So what I ended up doing was taking an old Giorgio Armani box. It was like a gift box with different colognes and things like that in it. Just saved the box because I thought it would be useful for something. And as you can see, you can just easily identify all of the labels as you look down from the top. So this is going to sit right next to the stove, and so whenever you need a spice, you can grab it. The problem is my family hated the bin situation that I had going on, where you took the bins out of the cabinets. They didn't like looking through them. They wanted a simple spice solution. So this is great to just be able to grab and season your food while you're cooking. And I just put the 2 salt and pepper shakers right there in the front because everybody can identify the salt and pepper shakers. So this is setup number 1, and I think I'm going to go ahead and paint this out all black so you won't see the Giorgio Armani, but for right now it works. So this next packaging tape label technique you've probably seen all over YouTube and on Pinterest, and I thought I'd give it a whirl. So what you will need is packaging tape. You'll need a bowl of warm water, possibly a Sharpie, scissors, a credit card, and your labels printed out. You can use Word, PowerPoint, or whatever you want to use to print your Word labels out. I did Word, and I also chose to print out the backs of the labels that you would see on the back of like your oatmeal container, your grit container, just so that I could have that label on the back as well and know the measurements. So the first step is to take your tape and you're going to place your tape over your words like so and flatten it out. So after you put the tape on, you want to smooth out with your credit card or your bone folder to make sure that it's bubble free and everything is pressed down really well. And after you do that, you want to cut out your words. And then you're going to place the words in lukewarm water and you're going to let that sit for about a minute. So the next step is to just peel the back of the paper off under the water. So you're going to just rub the paper off. Then I'm going to lay my label out on this cookie sheet and wait for it to completely dry before I affix it to the jars. 1 down, 8 more to go. So after it's completely dry, you get your label and you stick it on your jar. And then on top of each of the jars, I'm going to put the expiration date so that we'll know when it spoils. So I'm going to stick that right there. And then with my Sharpie, I'm going to go ahead and write in the date. And this sugar expires 2019. And again, even though there's a Sharpie marker there, you can wipe this off with a rubbing alcohol. Now for items like grits that have measurements on how to cook them and things like that, what I did was I printed off the directions. I went online and typed in directions or cooking instructions for grits. I did the exact same technique that I did for the grits label. Then I'm going to tape the instructions to the back of the jar so that we will have all of the proper measurements and cooking directions. So here is the final outcome, and I love how the jars turned out. Okay, here is the next setup for my next set of labels for my spices. And this one right here is just being extra and over the top, and when you have nothing to do with your time, you just make custom labels for your spices. So basically what you're going to need are some empty spice jars where everything is uniform and cohesive. So I picked up some spice jars from the Dollar Tree that had the black lids on them, and I removed the contents from them and I just put them in this Ziploc bag with crushed pepper, and then I put the expiration date. So I needed these containers here so that I could make these containers here uniform with everything else that I have. So that's why I dumped everything out, so I can put these in the black containers with the black lids. And you're going to need the Scotch tape, the packaging tape again, if you want to make labels for them. We're going to use the same technique that we did in the previous one for the jars. You're going to need some scissors, and again your spices, and back of the back I have the contact paper. So the first thing you're going to do is cut to size a piece or strip of the contact paper. And what I did was I took off the label for one of the spice jars and measured it out to make sure that everything was the exact same size and cut it out. So you just take the label off one of the spice jars to get the correct size. Once you get the correct size, you do not have to recut, use this label anymore. You can use this as your sample piece and cut them out. The one thing that I liked about the contact paper is that it has a grid on it, and I knew I just needed to cut 3 squares and the length, so you can get a straight edge and it's very easy. So I'm going to take my jar, and I'm not going to even take the paper off of that one. I'm just going to go right over top of it, and I am not even going to take the sticky side of the contact paper off on the back of here. I'm just going to put it together like that and take a piece of tape and tape that together, and it just makes it so much quicker. So I don't have time for my to sit here and wait for the tape to dry, so I'm going to speed that process up by just hitting it with the blow dryer real quick. That took all but 2 seconds, and now I am going to go ahead and put this on top of the label. And there you have it. Now what I don't like, it looks like a little bit of the pulp from the paper is still kind of stuck inside of the tape, and it shows up a little bit through the copper, but I'm going to have to deal with that. So we use a lot of Sazone in our house, and so I have these packets instead of opening up a packet each time, because we don't always use a full packet, or we might use a packet and a half. I'd rather just have it in a shaker, just like a spice, so we can shake on however much we need and not have all of these random packets. So that's what I'm going to do with these. We went from this to this. How gorgeous is that? Just taking a few Dollar Tree spice containers and some leftover contact paper, I created something beautiful. Stay tuned to see how I put everything together in my spice cabinet. That video should be coming up next. Until next time, I'm going to keep calm and carry on. Bye guys.